Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. We are joined by my trusty partner, Matt. Simon, Matt, how you doing?
I'm good. It is snowing here, coming down pretty hard, staying warm by the back test fire.
Just letting the back test fire. And speaking of back tests, with a very, very special guest today, none other than the man himself, Justin K. Sir, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Cold, not snowing, but it's I'm in North Carolina. It's abnormally cold.
Yeah,
But staying warm, so no
yeah,
complaints.
yeah. Shout out to our Florida people who it's like apocalyptic scenes for them
Yeah.
in Florida. Well, Justin, did this last year, and you had come out with this course, one DTE Strategies, and uh, don't think we're talking about school or anything like that. It was one of our more popular courses. People really, really enjoyed the format, really enjoyed how you did it, and the data that you showed, which was a lot of data. Um, for those who haven't taken that course, highly encourage you to do that. Matt's analogy was, do you need to? This is like Empire Strike Back, what we're talking about today. Do you need to see the first one? Not necessarily, but it's going to make a lot more sense if you see the first one. So, uh, but for those who didn't, when we say one DT strategies and things like that, Justin, what have you been running, and what was that course about?
So the course was mainly about, when we call one DTE, what we're essentially meaning is options that don't expire today. So the closest option that expires that's not today. So typically, now that we've got daily expirations, you're targeting strategies that focus on today being a Thursday, ones that expire Friday, or on Friday, ones that expire Monday. Historically, before dailies, we were typically targeting the one that wasn't expiring today, which could have been Mondays that you're selling Wednesdays on Monday, or Tuesday or Wednesdays on Tuesday. But typically what the previous course was, if you had no experience with 1DT, you heard a whole lot about, people were talking about 1DT and the advantages that it has. What essentially was the fundamentals behind what that strategy is based on. And there's a lot of research articles, there's a lot of academic papers on it. It's not something that, just randomly appeared. Instead, there's appears to be some potential mismatchings and pricings in the market for 1DTE strategies, and specifically how you can take advantage of them. So the first course, a crash course, was really mainly about what is 1DTE, why would it be profitable, and then taking a look at a number of different metrics that could make it profitable. So we took a look at wide sets of data, anything between 1 delta and 35 delta on both puts and calls, 1 DT and 3 DTE for those entries on Friday targeting Monday's expiration, and then took a look at, hey, what's the data showing me? Is it profitable to buy, or is it profitable to sell some of these strategies over long periods of time, short periods of time? What is the data really telling us? And then once we're really focusing in on potential metrics for a strategy, how can we optimize that? So what does the stop loss do? What does the profit target do? If I targeted certain areas as opposed to other areas, different times, how would all of that really impact? And then we built all of those together to really say, okay, here's one or a couple different strategies. The purpose of the course, for those that didn't take it, was not to say, here's a strategy. In fact, I don't really give one strategy. I give about 8 different potential strategies, because it was really more to say, look, everybody that enters, options, they're going to target, different parameters that they define as success. Some people are really looking for very high win rate strategies. They make a little bit every day, and then when you have a loss, it's a big loss. Other people are looking for the exact opposite of that. Hey, really low win rates, but when I get that one positive event, it could pay for 6 months or a year's worth of potential losses. So because everybody's view on what they're looking for is a little bit different, instead, here's all the data, and you can take that data and you can move it around a little bit in different ways to get strategies that work best for you. And here are some examples on what would work. But typically what we did when we followed the research, it was really showing that later in the day and short volatility, so selling options, appeared to be very profitable. So that's at least what the initial strategies were built on. But it also talked a lot about, which is very important with this stuff, risk mitigation efforts, both intraday, what you can do to stop, because you're selling options, what you can do to add protection measures, and then overnight risk when you can't necessarily exit a market if it's SPX or SPY and you don't have the ability to exit options overnight. How can you protect yourself? And we talked about wings and a couple different things in that. So that was what the purpose of the crash course was.
And like I said, it was one of the most in-depth, pieces of work that I've seen, and you just crushed it. And again, people, I think, really enjoyed it. And then you reached out a couple months ago and said, hey, I've got some more research, which we were thrilled by, and some more data and things like that, which led to the course that's coming out live. In fact, I think it's live right now. We'll put the link in the chat, but it's Advanced 1 DTE. So can you dig in, a little bit more into what you're trying to accomplish with this and what further research, led you towards in this?
So if you're not familiar, the crash course had, I think, roughly about 6,000 different back tests that was used to build a lot of the charts, a lot of the graphs, a lot of the, different strategies and metrics to get a better understanding. And overall, that course, I got very positive feedback. Anybody that ended up messaging me or talking directly through the Option Omega Discord, I believe I answered everybody's questions. I always tried to walk everyone through it. It's important for me that everybody gets a good understanding of it. But what some of the feedback that I ended up getting, they were interested in mainly more. And also along with that, there was a lot of people that, look, they had been doing 1 DTE for 6 months, a year, maybe a couple years. And so they were already familiar with the basics, and they were looking for something a little bit more than that. So I ended up throwing together, I think this one ended up being closer to about 8,000 back tests, give or take, not counting the ones that didn't actually come to mean anything. So I didn't actually put it in the mix, which is a couple thousand in and of itself. But I took the data points that we had. So we took a look at, 1 delta to 35 delta. And instead, I was always curious, what would happen if I actually extended that much further, all the way to in the money? Is it more profitable to be selling options that are in the money, knowing that they'll cash settle? Or is there a possibility that I could start buying some of those options that end up being further in the money? Because we didn't really look at that. Because, for those that took the course, once you hit about, 20, 30, 35 delta, it kind of started plateauing a little bit. And it's a lot of work to end up digging a little bit further. But we did. So I wanted to take a look at in the money. I wanted to see what they looked like on a 1 DTE basis. But then mainly I wanted to try to find complementary strategies. So we looked at the data before, and the data largely focused on going short volatility, selling options. And, you can't really have an entire portfolio, or at least it's probably not advisable to have an entire portfolio of just short options. So instead, we want to try to find some strategies that are potentially long volatility, some buying strategies, and ones that don't work counter to our existing 1 DTE strategies. So taking a look at perhaps entries in the morning, or perhaps entries at the same exact time that you're selling options, but not trying to sell and then turn around and buy the same thing. Instead, taking a look at how can I create other strategies that also profit off of the same type of metrics, but were counter to our existing strategies. So we really wanted to focus on, not just different deltas, different entry times, but really kind of focusing more on long volatility or potential hedge strategies that can work complementary to some of our other existing short 1 DTE. We also focused a little bit, and the course had some longer dated wings. We really dove pretty deep into that to say, like, okay, so I've got, a short 1 DTE position. What would it look like if I had a longer day that I then rolled, if rolling counts? And we took a look at all of that as well. Does that add protection measures to existing strategies?
Yeah, and the two things that I take away immediately from it are 8,000 back tests. That's a lot of back tests for anybody
I
who
get
never
my
ran.
money's worth out of the OO subscription. I'll tell you
Yes,
that, bud.
yes, a power user indeed. But the other part, which I enjoy a lot, is it's to your point. It's very easy to say I found a strategy, and I'm a put seller. I'm a call seller, or I sell premium. That's what I do. And you get a bunch of wins under your belt, and you're like, this is I found the golden goose. I'm a premium seller. You have done the research, and you're a real trader in the sense that you're trying to find strategies that just work through time and work together through time, and almost building a suite or a portfolio of strategies of both long vega and short vega. I think that's super impressive, and I think it's real trading. Have you found in your testing and things like that, do your hedges change based on where we're at, vol wise, VIX wise?
So I do in the advanced course, we go through talking about VIX a little bit. The real short answer is no. Now that doesn't mean, if VIX goes to 50, like we did, we had that event early August. I, you know, I'm not I'm not going to treat a day like that the same that I would any other day when VIX is sitting at, 16. But, generally if VIX is 30, if VIX is 20, if VIX is 10, I'm not really going to treat it differently. And the reason why, for one, I'm going to take a look at the data and I'm going to say, okay, what is the data really showing me over longer periods of time? But beyond that, it's a pet peeve isn't really the right term, but when people share back tests through Option Omega's Discord predominantly, they'll put VIX filters in place and they'll say, okay, what does this look like if I don't trade anything over VIX 40 or over VIX 30 or over VIX 35? And they keep kind of bringing it down, or they bring it up and they start excluding the wings, and then they find something. Oh, look, that's amazing, right? So if I exclude things that are only, above 35 VIX or 30 VIX, suddenly the profitability increases, and a large amount of my losses were in that high VIX margin. But what you really need to do is take a look at what VIX is and the time period that you're in. So VIX itself is mean reverting, meaning that it'll revert back to its average price, but the average, the mean, is actually changing over periods of time. So you can have 2, 3, 4 years where the average VIX is 30, and then 2, 3, 4 years where the average VIX is 14. And so when I'm selecting different VIX measures, I need to pay attention to the time frame that I'm in and what the mean was during that time frame. Because if I try to exclude anything over VIX 30, but in that time frame that I have, the mean was actually, 31. Well, at that point, I'm excluding over 50% of the potential trades in that time frame. But it's going to be the exact opposite if that time frame, the mean was, say, VIX 14 or 15. So what I really like to do is take a look at much larger time periods to say, okay, I want to play this for the long haul, because I'm not 65 years old. I don't have 5 or 10 years of trading left. I got much longer than that. So I really want to come up with strategies and portfolios that work together. And you may have a strategy that's not going to work for 6 months, a year, 2 years, but as long as you have, a composition of different potential strategies that are always kind of running in the background, then you can ride through any of those 6-year, 2-year marks.
Yeah, super smart. I mean, the thing you're saying about VIX is so true. The mean of it means a lot more than just any given, VIX is 30 or something like that. Not including days, like you said, those days, like August 5th, I think, where we wake up at 80 VIX. That's a
totally different ball game.
Totally different ball game. A very fun ball game, but
yeah, it was interesting.
Depending. Well, and you've been trading. Like I said, this isn't necessarily one strategy. You've been trading, but not necessarily strategy, but methodology, I'd say, for a while now. How did the last 6 months go for you of 24? How's year to date been for you so far?
So last 6 months of 24, it was positive. I mean, I was not up as much as I would have liked to be. But I think that's kind of the way with every trader. Year to date has been gangbusters. It's been, great. I've been doing, 3 times better than what I thought I was going to do, which, I mean, when you're trading, it's one of those things when it's not going great or it's not hitting the metrics that you wanted it to hit, even if you're positive, you think you're failing. And
For sure.
then even though you're positive, you're making money, you're like, I'm not making as much money as I should be making. And then you have those times like year to date where you're knocking it out of the park and you're super excited, but you're always looking like, when's that other shoe going to drop?
Yeah,
Is it going
when's
to
the corner?
tomorrow? Like,
That's right. That's exactly right.
so, I mean, it's been a good year. I've been trading full time since, I guess, May now. It's been a lot more stressful than I thought, but hey, it gives me more time to run some more back tests. So there you go.
I love it. Yeah, it's so true. It's you have you're like, shoot, I'm only up 30%. I was especially going from like let's say you're up 50% for the year, and you're like, I'm obviously Soros, I'm obviously Jim Simons, I'm that quality person, and then you have a drawdown, you're up like 25 or 30%, and you're like, I'm the biggest loser in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
You're still beating S&P. But
and meanwhile, you take a look at any hedge fund, I mean, up 25, you're doing better than almost any hedge fund, So
for sure.
Still not bad.
No, it's absolutely true. Matt, do you have any? Matt has dug in. The videos have been. Matt just kept texting me, being like, "Dude, the quality of this stuff is insane." Matt, you want to speak to any of that? I think you're muted.
Yes, I would love to speak to that. So, I think it'd be great, Justin, too, if you can talk about the spreadsheet tool in the course. But let me say this first. I mean, people sometimes reach out to us and ask, they look at a course, they read the description, they watch the video, and they still want to understand, what is this course about? What is this course about? And I would say the thing that I really enjoyed about this course is in a longer trend for me personally, which is exploring more debit style trades. So the first course was credit selling. And this has, is this all debit trades? I'm trying to think. It's predominantly debit trades or all debit trades. And
not all. I mean, I would say the emphasis is more on debit, but
yeah,
it has all of it.
It really fits hand in glove. And I loved how you guys talked about the idea of, the goal of this is to help people understand that they can build a portfolio of positive expectancy things. And I think what most folks are looking for are positive expectancy, rigorously tested, historical back tests that can give them trade ideas that are positive expectancy, and somewhat also they may be offsetting trade ideas. So there may be trade ideas that are positive expectancy and back tests that are long volatility that are positive expectancy that you can combine with short volatility back tests from the first class and create something. And that's where do you mind talking about that spreadsheet for a minute? Because
yeah, sure.
that is it's really interesting.
So later in the course, I mean, maybe hour 3 or something around there, it kind of shifts gears a little bit, and it says, okay, so the course goes over a lot of data. It leans more towards buying options, but it has all of it, and it lets you really kind of draw your own conclusion. Then we kind of build roughly around 8 different potential strategies and see what they look like, and then take a look at some complements to existing short strategies and what they would look like. And each one independently could look amazing, but if they're not working together, if they're fighting against each other, then you don't want to trade both of them. So later in the course, we shift gears, and I've got a link to a Google spreadsheet. You can copy it yourself. And then once it's copied, you can start inputting your own data. And the purpose of that spreadsheet is to really say, okay, I want to see how multiple different strategies work together. And I also want a little bit more information from how these different strategies either work together or they don't work together. and this is not obviously, I'm not going to speak poorly of Option Omega. The only downside to their backtesting program is that when I'm running 8,000 backtests, it takes me a long time. And as it takes me a long time to run the individual backtests, when I combine them into different portfolios, and then I want to add a strategy into that portfolio, or I want to change the time frame, it takes time to recalculate that data over and over again. So the spreadsheet that I provide through the course gives you the opportunity to upload raw data from Option Omega. When you run a test, you can upload that data into this spreadsheet, and then you can instantaneously change the dates around, and you can change the weightings around. So you can see, okay, what would it look like if I sold a single one of these? What would it look like if I sold 5 of these? What would it look like if I bought 2 of these and sold 5 of these, or bought 2 and sold 4? See how they kind of work against each other. And then it'll also not only chart out, your expected profit and gain and your max drawdown, but it'll also calculate the correlation between different strategies, and then take a look at the overall portfolio and give you additional calculation metrics that you can use to make decisions. Namely, it'll calculate your Sharpe ratio for you. It'll calculate your MAR, which Option Omega already does for you. But it also takes a look at some other things like Kelly ratio and volatility, and namely your worst day drawdown, which is a big sticking point for me when I'm combining different strategies together. I might have one strategy that, in the backtest time frame has a max drawdown of 4%, and another strategy that has a max drawdown of 4%. Well, if both of those end up taking their max gain at opposite time frames, it's going to be very different than if they take their max gain at the same time. So I want to know, not only is what the max drawdown going to look like when I combine these, but what's the single worst day that I'm likely to experience within that backtest time frame. So if I put it all together and I say, okay, look, I'm looking at this thing and it's showing me that I should make 50% per year and, a 10% drawdown. But if the worst day is a 10% drawdown, I also need to stop and think, look, 50% gain is great and 10% drawdown, that's really low, at least comparing to the market overall. But would I be able to continue to have trust in this type of group of strategies if I had a single day where I lost 10% of my account? And so it may give you some pause to say, okay, maybe I need to try to find some different strategies that maybe don't all draw down at the same time. And then you can work on some of your weightings. And the spreadsheet is designed really for a lot of the strategies that we talked about in the course, but it also freely gives you the ability to upload any other strategy that you have. So if you're somebody that, you're running a lot of double calendars, if you're running, some iron condors, some iron butterflies that are doing some other things, some longer dated things, run that test and then throw it in the spreadsheet too, and see, am I better off by adding 1DT to my existing strategies, and what ratio am I better off adding them? Or are they really just doing the same thing? When one gains, the other one gains, and the correlation is very high or the correlation is very low. So I'm really better off just implementing a single strategy as opposed to 2, 3, or 4. Now, the one caution that I will give, it's very easy to, well, not easy, but you can optimize a lot of these spreadsheets to say, you're going to make 1,000% per year with a 2% drawdown. There's no guarantee that historical time frame will match future time frame. There's no way to tell what the market's going to do, but you can at least take a look at, hey, what would the previous time frame look like? And does adding things, at least over longer time frames, does it improve the overall portfolio's stance, or does it not really add that much?
Oh, yeah. You're talking about how options involve risks and they're not suitable for all investors, and that everything we're talking about is backward looking and not forward looking, and that you should consult with your financial advisor before you're engaging. And
my man Troy right there.
Troy, that was one of the two things I was going to say. The other thing is, based on exactly what you just said, this course and the previous course, you're not like people sometimes have a pretty simplistic view of what these courses are. We don't sell back tests. You're not buying a back test. You are getting, this course it's over well over 3 hours of in-depth discussion where you're going to understand in a robust way and go through how to set up these strategies in a way that makes sense for you. And this course, just like the previous course, it's a buffet. Justin goes through and explains through an overwhelming amount of back tests what these setups look like. And then this spreadsheet is another tool that allows you to pick and choose the thing that's going to make sense for you. Because one of the things that I really appreciate is, with the back test in this course, but any back test, if you have a strategy that works when you put it on at 12:13 p.m., but if you change it to 12:15 p.m., it falls apart. Probably should be a sign. That's probably not something you want to pursue. Probably not something you want to keep on. And you did a great job in this class of breaking out and saying, okay, there might be a pricing discrepancy in this general time of day, in this general range of deltas. It's not about finding, okay, at 12:47, I need to sell the 13.5 delta. And if I have the 14 delta at 1 o'clock, it totally falls apart. It's not about that at all. So I felt like the tool of having that spreadsheet, and I did it exactly what you said. I am put in some data from a couple of my double calendars and played around with some of the 1 DTE credit selling, and it's a really excellent tool. So but the non curve fitted nature and kind of the robust nature of saying, hey, here's the concept, here's the idea, and then fully unpacking it instead of trying to find like a glitch in the matrix. So that was great.
And along the same road, we talk about, in data sets and out of data sets, I don't backtest to yesterday. I don't backtest to the last month or the last quarter. Instead, I'm really taking a look at historical values and then coming up with overarching conclusions on what I think it's telling me. And then once I come to that conclusion, I can take that information and now move it forward. So I can see, okay, if I had figured this out, let's say a year ago, 6 months ago, last quarter, and I traded it for the past year, 6 months, or last quarter, what would it have looked like? And if everything looks rosy, looking back at 10 years of data, but the past year, it all falls apart, well, then that should tell me like, maybe I overfitted something within that data set. And you can't really do that type of thing if you're back testing to yesterday. So that's one of the additional things that we talk about, and I get a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but, some questions from some people that say, hey, do you really need 3-4 hours to talk about a strategy? And it's not one strategy. It's not, I go over 8 or 10 or 12 different potential strategies, but the purpose of the course actually isn't those 8, 10, or 12 different strategies. It's a mindset to say, hey, here's some things to take a look at, and you may want to tweak some of those parameters. And actually tweaking the parameters is going to be better for me and better for you, because as you take a look at it, like you said, maybe I zero in and I say, hey, look, I like the 15 delta, and the 13 and the 14 and the 16 and the 18, they all work too, but I'm going to stick with the 15. If everybody's sticking with the 15 and there's hundreds or thousands of people that are all targeting the same entry at the same time at the same stop loss, nobody really wins. But instead, if I say, look, I am okay with a bigger drawdown, so I'm going to go with a higher delta. And somebody else says, I don't really want that type of a drawdown, so I'm going to go to a lower delta, or earlier in time or later in time, or higher stop loss or lower stop loss. You get more variability, and it ends up working for everyone. But along the same lines, I will say, what is this course? Who would benefit from it? If you took the first course and you liked it and you just want more information, they're right up your alley. This is more back tests that were in the first one, and there you go. If you're somebody that, you didn't take the first course and you don't have to, I assume that you have some, fundamental conclusions, either that you drew from the first course or that you've been trading 1DT for a while, so you already have your own strategies. If you already have your own, 1DT mindset, you don't need, a crash course. Great for you to take you to the next level, to say, okay, what are some other things that I can do that still play on the same type of metrics, but they work differently? it's a great type of course for you as well. If you're one that wants to look at, long volatility or hedges, great opportunity as well. Full disclosure though, if you're the type of person that says, hey, I don't want to put any time into this, I don't want to think about this, I want you to give me a test and I want to plug it in and I want to run it, it's not going to be the course for you, because that's not what we do here. And while I do say, look, here's some example portfolios, here's generally what I've been doing and it's been working pretty well for me, it doesn't mean that you say, okay, great, now that I sat through 4 hours, I pull that test and now I end up trading it live, because it's not going to always work like that. And you need to understand, not only what type of parameters you're targeting, but why you're targeting it. And your goals may be different than mine. So after you go through the course, you'll be able to say, look, I don't want to target, this one metric. I'm more comfortable with this one. And then you can plug it through the same metrics to say it actually may perform better than what I suggested, which is going to be better for you. So,
yeah, I think that those three, there's lots of reasons to take it. And the three in my mind are, one, I remember the first course when it came out, it was like right at the moment where for the first time and maybe since the SPX dailies, people were like, hey, did you notice how we all started trading 0 day and maybe we shouldn't all trade 0 day? And so
yeah, specifically the same parameters.
That's correct. That's correct. If you are very much a person that's like, I'm looking for other strategies besides 0 day or besides super long term, I'm looking for a sweet spot, it's a great course for you. Two, the spreadsheet, I think very well for a lot of people might be worth the price of admission by itself, knowing what people have asked for many years to be able to optimize things. And spreadsheets is a very easy way to do that. I'm sure it wasn't easy to create, but it's very easy to do it compared to putting it into the app itself. And so I think that might be worth it for people. But then three, the most important, like you said, I think for people who are new to backtesting, this is actually a great course because it really shows you, like, we've all run tests before and we're like, this thing is an amazing test. It's a killer test. This is my new strategy. I'm this strategy guy. I assume this strategy's personality into my heart. This is something where it's like, but as soon as it's gone wrong, you might have thought to yourself, I wonder what happens if I ran this like 3 minutes before and it sucked. Well, this is a course by a guy who shows you how to deal with that. And the answer is put a lot of work into it. And so, 8,000 tests is the guy knows what he's doing and he's done a great job. So just shout out to you, Justin. You do great work. I can't speak highly enough. Like the first time you sent us your stuff, we were like, this is literally insane to us. So you do an awesome job.
I appreciate it. It means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. No, and it's going to be an awesome course. So if anybody has any questions, you can get in Discord and go to our website, optionomega.com. But the course itself, we put it in the link, and it's basically Option Academy. If you go to academy.optionomega, you'll see it right there. So I think the first course. So, and it's live now. So guys, any parting words?
Man, I just appreciate everybody watching. We got people from all over. We got Argentina, Mexico, Calgary, Nantucket. They're coming from all over today. So.
Love Nantucket. Love doing crab fries in Nantucket.
Yep.
Full family.
I like how Troy immediately links location to food.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, 100%. New Orleans. You like, yeah, Dumont's. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I get that. Yeah, it's kind of my thing. My doctor's struggling with that with me a little bit, but no worries. Anyway, guys, appreciate you very much. As always, reach out if you have any questions. Justin, you killed it, man. And we'll go from there. So that being said, you guys have a great day and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for your time, guys.